What's going on, guys? So you're interested in picking up a 3D printer, or you already have one. I'm gonna show you the modifications that I've made to mine to make printing for the FPV hobby much easier. Let's go. So real quick, I'm gonna go into the filaments that I use, and why I'm gonna do that is because it really makes a difference with some of the stuff that you print and why you print it, and why you need to make the modifications that you're going to make. If you're not gonna use a specific filament, you're not gonna be using a specific modification. If you are, you're probably gonna need it. So that's why, let me go over those, and then we'll get straight to the printer and I'll show you those modifications. So as far as filaments go, as you can see, this is a 1.75 millimeter filament. This particular one is a black PETG. You can tell because it's a pretty shiny plastic. I started with PLA, and PLA is a very easy to use material. I find that it almost never screws up. It just set it, forget it, print, whatever. The size of your part doesn't matter, any of that stuff. Like, things just come out amazing with that. The issue that we have with that, with FPV specifically, is if you were to leave something in the car, the heat of the car in the summertime will cause this plastic to melt and warp. So I don't like to use it for anything FPV. So when I first got my printer, I bought like 5-6 rolls of this stuff, and I've just been printing stuff for the kids out of that because I don't use it for FPV at all. So if you want to get a roll of it just to practice with, get used to your machine, but I don't suggest buying any more than one. You're really not gonna use it unless you're gonna use it for household projects, stuff like that, things that are not gonna go outside into the extreme heat. Now, it will survive just outside, but as soon as you put it in the car or something like that, or a room that gets like really hot, not gonna work. So the two major things that I use are TPU, which is a thermal plastic urethane, and that's the flexible stuff that we'll make our GoPro mounts out of, and our motor protectors. If you're gonna make a pad that goes underneath the motor to dampen vibrations, that's a good material to use. And the other material I use is PETG, and I'm not even gonna try to say what that is because I don't know off the top of my head. It's polyurethane. Like I said, I'm not even gonna try to say it. I'll put it up on the screen right here. Polyurethane tetraphthalate, I'm not even going to try to say it anymore because I'm just going to screw it up even more. It's polyurethane something. Anyway, it's a little bit more advanced of a type of material to print. You kind of got to dial it in. It's not like the PLA where you just set it and forget it. This stuff, if you print large pieces, it kind of tends to want to peel off the bed if you don't have good layer adhesion to the bed. But what I like about this stuff is it's a little bit flexible and it's kind of heat resistant, so you can leave it in your car, stuff like that. So like many of us, they'll bring our quads to work and go fly during lunch or fly after or what have you. And in the heat of the summer, your trunk's gonna get blazing hot and you don't wanna come out to a melty freaking whatever. So I've migrated to that, and that stuff works great once you get your settings dialed in. And I'll go into the settings that I use and the programming that I use, but that's another video. All right, so now that we've covered the filaments, let's go check out the modifications. So here's a look at my printer. This is the Ender 3 Pro, and we're gonna start over here with the build plate. I have added this is a glass bed, and this is like a two-sided bed. It's got a material on the top of it, which is actually a pretty nice material. This stuff, when the bed cools off, everything just pops off automatically. You don't need to pry at it. And if you needed to, you can flip it over and use a plain glass sheet underneath to print some of the
higher temperature stuff. What I usually do is I print TPU, I'll flip this over and just print it on the straight glass. But the PETG and the PLA, I'll print right on top of this. And to hold it in place, I use these guys, but you will quickly find out that after running this for a while, what happens is this actually sticks to the bed. And this comes with, this is a magnetic build plate, and it's flexible. So this is nice for like PLA stuff like that, the lower temperature stuff, but because it's a magnet, anything over I think like 80 degrees Celsius, and it loses its magnetism. So I very quickly changed over to this. This was like 20 bucks. So the other modification I did was this. This is a 3D printed part. This is out of PLA, and you don't need to do this. This is a cosmetic part, and it just kind of covers up this little gear here and keeps it clean, and that just clips in place. Another thing I did here was I printed up both this draw case and these draws. This is also PLA, and this kind of keeps all your tools nice right there, ready to go, instead of this giant hole underneath the bottom of the printer. And that extends all the way to the base of the printer itself. The other thing that I did here, so when I bought this, the motherboard underneath the screen was completely out in the open. So anytime you would use this, your natural thing was to wrap your fingers around it, and you would touch the back of the motherboard. So they have this part here. I printed that out. Again, it's something that you don't necessarily need, but so that is something that you don't necessarily need, but I like it. So when you wrap your fingers around the back of this thing, it actually feels finished. So those are a couple of modifications that I've made down to the bottom of this. So this next modification I highly suggest. This is this guy here. This makes it easier to run filament into and out of the extruder, and I highly suggest it no matter what filament you're using. Down below it, you'll see this red aluminum piece here. If you're going to be printing with TPU and in the mini quad realm, yes you are. I highly suggest that. And let me get you a shot overhead. So this next modification, I highly suggest if you're going to be using TPU. And if you're printing for the mini quad hobby, you will be using TPU. This red guy is set in such a way that it's got a little indentation that goes in between the pulley and the motor gear. So when you're pushing the filament into what's called the Bowden tube, this blue tube here, it will not bind up and send filament out of the motor instead of down the tube. And that will prevent both a rat's nest and a clogged extruder. So the other thing that I suggest doing is printing one of these guys. This is a filament guide, and I printed this at a PETG. Don't print this out of PLA. And the reason being is because this filament kind of sticks to it, whereas the PLA, other filaments don't tend to stick to it as much. This is a problem that I have both with TPU and with PETG through the PETG. If this was PLA, it would be better. But anyway, do print one of these, just not this material. What this does is this gives you more of a straight line into your extruder motor than if you were to take this and just run directly into it. What it happens is you'll actually start wearing away part of this aluminum, and the original part is plastic, and very quickly you will wear into that, because what happens is you're trying to go into it straight in like this, and you end up causing like a 90-degree bend in the filament, and with the motor pulling on it, that can actually cause feed issues into your extruder motor. So printing something like this, it gives a nice curved loop straight into your extruder motor, and your prints are going to be much more reliable. So that's a quick look into the modifications and filaments that I use and have made to my machine for FPV. And they really bode well for all the other prints that you'll do. The PETG has been glorious once you get the settings dialed in. And there's
not too many modifications that you need to do. So that's been my staple product. As far as the TPU, that stuff is also great for motor arm bumpers and for, like I said earlier, the dampening plates to go underneath your motors. There's just so much that we can do with this hobby. But anyway, I'm getting outside of the scope of this video. So yeah, those are the modifications I've made. They don't really cost that much over the cost of a printer. The glass bed I think was like $20. So I hope that helps you if you're on the fence in purchasing a printer. And I'll go over a lot of my settings and just how to print everything, what programs I'm using. Those are videos to come, but hopefully that just gives you a perspective as to how much you're gonna be spending and what kind of products that you're gonna wanna buy, and just kind of clear up the muddy waters of what this hobby can be. Because, you know, we wanna get our quads out, built, fly them, do whatever. We don't really wanna be screwing around with a printer, but it's not as hard as many of us think. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and click that thumbs up button. And if you haven't done it already, go ahead and punch that subscribe button, because you only get to do it once and it's fun. And I'll catch you later. Peace.